I got cut off. And now I have to do what would have been a quick video in this format where I have to process the video before uploading it, and that takes up to 12 hours. So it might be 12 hours after I record this that you see this. This is ridiculous. And yeah, somebody's already replied to my live stream, even though Comcast took it down. But anyway, yeah, sorry about that. I'll never try another live stream again. I apologize. I thought I could do it this time, but I won't try it again because Comcast, they've made it basically illegal because they own the government. But anyway, that rant out of the way about the poor internet access in my area that I can't stand. Let's get to this. And to me, this is the big news here. A lot of people are talking about IDW. Here's the thing. Back in 2013, I called this. I said that within 5 years' time, and look, exactly on the dot, something unthinkable would happen. I said back in 2013 when I was looking at the sales, I told some people online, I think it was on the SF Debris Facebook page or something like that. Or it might have been some message board. I don't know. Might have been some message board connected with Linkara. I don't know. But I said it back then. I said within 5 years, Marvel is going to... Disney is going to start moving Marvel properties to other publishers. Because here's the thing. They're not making any money at this. Marvel has to spend a huge amount of money printing these books, paying for the talent, printing the books and everything. Why do that? All they need are the names of the characters. The only thing that makes money now are the films. It used to be that they could make money off of the films and get a little money off the comics, but the comics don't make money anymore. When your best-selling books only track between 50,000 and maybe 100,000 copies a month, you aren't making that hot. And I'm pretty sure with the AT&T merger with Warner Brothers that we're going to see something similar to this happen to DC too. But right now it's happening to Marvel, and it's happening right on the schedule I said. I said it would start in 5 years, and I said another 5 years after that, Marvel would just be a holding company that licensed out the rights to characters. Now, because here's the thing. If Disney licensed out the characters, guess what? They can't get the people who write their comics to abide by the rules they want to set up for the characters without them causing a huge deal when they try to fire them. Yeah, so Disney can't really control them without it becoming a public relations nightmare. But if they're licensing out the characters to, say, IDW with a strict set of guidelines about what to do with them, guess what? Then IDW, if they violate those rules, it's just a breach of contract, and it's just one mega corporation taking the rights away from another mega corporation for breaching a contract, and that becomes something that can't be put on the personal level, and that there can't be a moral outrage, and that they can't create moral outrage in the media over. So that's what I think this is all about, is that it's much easier for Disney. Marvel is such an unprofessional company that it's much easier for their parent company to license out their characters to a third party. And here's the thing. Disney gets all the money. They get none of the cost and all the money. So why wouldn't they do this? It really makes me chuckle that some people are acting like this came out of nowhere when I was like, when I'm just like, what took them so long? So they're taking their three biggest things in comics right now. There'll be a brand new Spider-Man series featuring Peter Parker and Miles Morales. I think that's how his name is pronounced. And it will be followed by an Avengers series and a Black Panther series. So yeah, they'll be that's what they're going to start with. Yeah, they're going to keep moving it on. And Marvel is talking about how excited they are, but hey, when you're putting out art that looks like, but they're not, because Marvel, this is the beginning of the end for them, because just look at this. I'm just gonna see it, and this is from a book that I like the writing of, but it's been nerfed in the art, and this is typical of Marvel art. Here's the thing: this is not the worst Marvel art I've seen, but it's been completely nerfed. So this is what you get typically from a Marvel comic these days. I mean, just look at it. Just look at it. I mean, this is awful. And this is the standard at Marvel. So just from an art standpoint, this is unappealing. And this is pretty much what Marvel looks like now. So yeah, Marvel isn't excited about this because now they're going to have to compete with other people. Um, just to give you an idea, I mean, Web of Spider-Man, I remember that being seen as just a mid-level, just another Spider-Man book. But look at what its art looked like compared to that. I mean, look. This is from just, like 20 years ago. And here's the thing, the printing technology, the ability to do things digitally. It's easier than ever if you make a mistake. If you made a mistake back then and it went to color and you didn't catch it until coloring, there was nothing you could do about it. It was too expensive. Now that everything's being done digitally, you can easily fix mistakes. But just look at this versus this. It's just... And again, I think Jody Houser is doing a great job with the writing on Renew Your Vows. And I think she's doing... And all of that. And I'm looking forward. She's doing a Stranger Things series coming up. And I'm looking forward to that because it looks like it'll have good art. So I'm looking forward to seeing her paired with good art and not being stabbed in the back. But yeah. So yeah, this is the beginning of the end here for Marvel Comics. Because what do they care? Disney, they can either pay out the nose to writers who they can't control without it being a PR nightmare for them, who will go out of their way to make sure that nobody reads their book, or they can license it to a bunch of places like IDW. And my dream is that there'll eventually be a manga line, because I think a manga line would whoa, I can't imagine what they would do with that. I mean, just off the top of my head, just some manga talent if they were interested. But here's an interesting thing. Is with the way the themes of responsibility and stuff are handled, could you imagine if we got a manga line of Marvel Comics written by, I can't believe I'm blanking on her name, and I don't have a manga in front of my face right now, but what's her name who did Full Metal Alchemist? Can you imagine what a limited run of Spider-Man that tells a complete story with the themes of personal responsibility? Can you imagine what that would be like in manga? But here's the other thing. I think Marvel Studios will become a holding company that just oversees production. They'll just oversee co-production deals between Disney and other studios too. Because here's what Kevin Feige said. Kevin Feige has said Avengers 4 is the ending of the MCU story. And to anybody who was in denial about Brie Larson being the new face of Marvel, her angry face being the new face of Marvel Studios, well, here's that. And here's the thing. The storylines come to an end. The best stories do, and this is Return of the Jedi was an ending, 10 years old, and the characters carry through 30 more years until there was a sequel. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think all these new, ones based on not actors who want to do it, but that feature actors who don't have, that aren't interested in doing it, but they just see it as a career stepping stone, like Brie Larson, and people who aren't having fun with it and who obviously are all about the political message. I think that's going to bomb. That's my personal opinion, is that that's going to bomb, and we are going to see something else, and we are going to see some, and then we'll see Disney step in and say, well, we'll see co-production partners, and they'll talk about their exciting new partnerships, and then Marvel Studios will still be a logo. It'll still exist, but it won't be the mega house that it was, that they build up, because it'll be about they'll nuke it with the political message the exact same way Marvel Comics did. They'll nuke it with once they have a character in there that's going down the wrong path, they'll refuse to change it. Like with Captain Marvel, they chose the wrong version of Captain Marvel. There are so many different. They got rid of again, I'm blanking on her name, but I grew up reading books she was in, so I do know her name. But what's her name? Who was in the '80s and part of the '90s. She was great. She's the one that was in. She's the one that was in. Um, um, the Secret War. She was great. And if they really wanted to go for the woke, woke points, they really should have gone with her because she was a black woman, not just another generic blonde woman. eh, You know, and what's more, her character was likable, unlike the Carl Danvers, or whatever they call her. Nah, I'm thinking of Supergirl now. Yeah, I can't really think of this Captain Marvel and keep her in my head because she's just such a generic, angry feminist stereotype, and in that way, Brie Larson is perfectly cast in the role. But I think what will happen is, within the next 5 years, we'll see Marvel Publishing become a holding company, just like Atari is. You know how nowadays Atari, its logo exists, but really they're just a transactional holding company. They just exist to hold on to the rights and then license them out to other companies who will make products with things with that name and those iconic designs. That's what's going to happen here. And then we'll see Marvel Studios. They'll become an oversight studio, but they'll be going to third party, people, and there'll be third party studios stepping in. It won't be the big studios because Disney will not hand it off to the big studios, but the actual production will start to be handled sort of like how you see with DC movies, how you see smaller companies like Rat Pack and Legendary, which are actually pretty big production companies, but still, they're not Warner Brothers. They are subsidiaries of Warner Brothers, but they each have their own independence. I think you'll see a bunch of stuff like that happening where you'll still see the characters interact and everything, and Marvel Studios will still be there to oversee it, but it won't be all in-house anymore. And I think that'll happen in the next 5 to 10 years as these new movies with this new lineup bomb, or if they may not completely bomb, but they won't stand up with the characters the way that with the traditional characters and how they worked. So you'll see that all fall to pieces. So yeah, to me, this is the beginning of the end. This is Disney washing their hands and saying, you know what, we've gotten all the money we can, and now it's time to step it down. I mean, the new movies featuring these new characters that are supposed to take over after Avengers 4, they're all being made on half a budget or less than is being spent on the Marvel characters right now, if you look at their production budgets. So, to me, that shows that Marvel Studios and Disney both know that they won't have the appeal and they have to cut back the budgets. And at some point, they'll ask themselves the same question they're asking with the movies that they're asking with Marvel Comics. Why are we paying all the costs associated with this when other people will come to us and literally give us money and we can give them guidelines on what to do? So I think both Marvel Studios and Marvel Comics are going to end up in the same place. They're going to end up being holding companies for the rights that have some oversight, but their glory days are gone. This will be the end of it, and this will take down DC. Once Marvel Comics are off the shelves as Marvel Comics, I think that'll put such a hit on the direct market that the comic book shops will not be able to survive, and we'll see. And DC, if AT&T hasn't done the same thing with DC by this point, by then, we'll see. That'll be a hit that DC will not be able to take, and they'll have to. And what's more, DC is losing readers through its own, get woke, go broke thing of they're rebooting everything back to being the New 52, which then I've stopped reading a lot of their books. I mean, I was buying up DC books by, as fast as I got money, I was spending it on DC books. Now I've just stopped because they've pretty much gotten rid of everything I liked about Rebirth and brought it back to the New 52, which is what caused me to stop. They're not calling it the New 52, but they're basically rolling back everything to that point. And that's what got me to stop reading DC in the first place. So, yeah. Sorry about... So, yeah, that's what I think is going to happen here. I think Marvel is going to roll up, and then it'll cost DC, and this is the beginning of the end. We are seeing history in the making. This day, when they announce these two things, the end of the Marvels. We're going to mark this day. This day is July 17th, 2018. This is the day that we'll be able to look back on in the future and say this is the definitive day when the American comic book industry died. When the big two, definitively had died. They had suffered the death of 1,000 cuts before here, but this is where they were actually taken to their deathbed, and the deathbed struggle began because Marvel Studios put itself on a course where it would eventually be relegated to a holding company, and it wouldn't be making the kind of money that would keep it afloat. And Marvel Comics put its most popular characters in the hands of other people and made them more accessible, and they're going to be accessible in more shops, so they are going to outsell what Marvel does. So now Marvel, not only do they have what, half a dozen Spider-Man books they're going to have to compete with, but now they're going to have one from another publisher. No, that's not going to work. This is the beginning of the end of American comics, if you ask me. And I said it has come to this, but I've been telling them they had a way to reverse this. They all should have done a rebirth thing and stuck with it until they built back up the audience. They refused to do that, and this is what happens. I hate getting involved with these hashtags and stuff, but there's only one way to look at this, and that is get woke, go broke. That is the way I see it. So, yeah. Sorry this went on for so long. And sorry there was a rant at the beginning. Goodbye.